She called me worthless in front of her 5 friends. I had just finished planning what I thought would be the perfect birthday celebration for Madison, complete with reservations at Charleston's most exclusive seafood restaurant and a weekend itinerary she'd mentioned wanting. What happened next changed everything between us forever. I'm Ryan, 34, and I teach marine biology at our local community college while running weekend scuba diving tours for tourists and certification students. Madison, 32, works as a social media coordinator for a luxury resort chain and had been living in my inherited beach cottage for the past 2 years of our 4-year relationship. I'd spent weeks coordinating this dinner with her 5 closest friends, knowing how much she valued their opinions and wanting her to feel celebrated surrounded by everyone she cared about. The evening started perfectly. I'd arranged transportation, made sure her favorite wine was available, and even coordinated with the restaurant to have her dessert customized with edible flowers she'd admired on Instagram. Madison looked stunning in a dress I'd helped her pick out during our last shopping trip, and her friends seemed genuinely impressed with the elegant private dining room I'd secured. The conversation flowed naturally until Chloe mentioned her boyfriend's new Tesla and the weekend trip to Kiowa Island they were planning. "That sounds amazing," Madison said, her voice taking on that wistful tone I'd learned to recognize. "Ryan suggested we go camping in the Blue Ridge Mountains this fall, which is so..." She paused, searching for the right word while gesturing dismissively. "Pathetic, honestly. I mean, sleeping in a tent when I could be at a Caribbean resort." I felt my stomach tighten, but I tried to keep things light. "Well, we talked about budget constraints, especially with the credit card situation from your recent influencer purchases." The words came out more defensive than I'd intended, and I immediately regretted bringing up finances in front of her friends. Madison's face flushed, and something shifted in her expression, a cold anger I'd never seen directed at me so publicly. "Budget constraints?" She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You mean because you're absolutely worthless and just a community college teacher who plays with fish tanks while my friends date investment bankers and real estate developers?" The table went silent. I could feel everyone's eyes on me, waiting for my response, but I was too stunned to speak. Madison wasn't finished. "It's embarrassing, honestly. Here's Chloe dating someone who owns property portfolios, Ashley's fiancé is launching his 3rd startup, and I'm stuck with someone who has zero ambition beyond his little weekend diving business with tourists and college dropouts." Her voice grew louder with each word, drawing attention from nearby tables. "Do you know how humiliating it is when people ask what my boyfriend does, and I have to explain that he teaches basic biology to kids who couldn't get into real universities? That he still drives a 2018 Jeep instead of leasing something that doesn't scream, 'I've given up on life'?" I sat frozen, watching this woman I'd loved for 4 years systematically dismantling everything I was proud of. My work with marine conservation research, the diving instruction business I'd built from nothing, the students who genuinely appreciated learning about ocean ecosystems, she was reducing it all to failure and embarrassment. Her friends looked mortified, shifting uncomfortably in their seats, but Madison seemed energized by their discomfort, as if their shock validated her frustration. "I mean, seriously, what kind of future am I supposed to build with someone whose biggest career achievement is getting tenure at a community college? My friends' boyfriends are buying houses, planning investments, talking about real goals. Ryan's idea of planning ahead is ordering new fish food for his classroom aquarium." The words hit like physical blows, each one designed to highlight every insecurity I'd ever shared with her in private moments. She knew exactly how to make me feel small, and she was doing it in front of the people whose opinions mattered most to her. I looked around the table at her friends' horrified faces, then back at Madison, who was breathing hard like she'd just finished a workout, waiting for me to defend myself or beg for forgiveness. Instead, I carefully placed my napkin beside my plate and said quietly, "You're completely right." I stood up, grabbed my jacket from the chair, and walked directly to the host stand where I paid the entire $340 bill without looking back. The drive to my diving partner Miguel's apartment passed in a blur of Charleston's evening lights, my phone buzzing constantly in the passenger seat. By the time I reached his place, I had 67 missed calls and a stream of text messages that started with frantic apologies. "Ryan, I'm so sorry, I was drunk and upset, please come back." Then shifted to accusations. "How could you abandon me on my birthday in front of everyone? This is emotional neglect." Miguel took one look at my face and handed me a beer without asking questions. "Want to talk about it, or should I just prepare the couch?" I chose the couch and spent the night staring at the ceiling while my phone continued its relentless buzzing from the kitchen counter where I'd abandoned it. Tuesday morning brought clarity along with coffee. I expanded my independent diving instruction business by calling 8 former students about private tutoring contracts, updated my marine biology certification to include advanced research methods, and scheduled 3 equipment maintenance sessions I'd been postponing. When my phone finally died around noon, the silence felt like liberation. Madison appeared at the college marine lab that afternoon, pounding on the glass partition while I worked with a student on water chemistry analysis. I refused to open the door, explaining through the glass that her name had never been on my property deed. She was legally a guest with no claims, information I'd verified with my attorney neighbor the night before. "Ryan, we need to talk like adults," she shouted, drawing stares from passing students. "You can't just shut me out after 4 years together." When I didn't respond, she threatened to expose private details about our relationship, but retreated quickly when I mentioned that several restaurant patrons had recorded her outburst on their phones. Through the glass, I watched her face cycle through anger, panic, and calculation. She tried a different approach, pressing her palms against the window like she was in prison. "I sacrificed career advancement to support your dead-end teaching career, Ryan. I could have taken that position in Miami if I hadn't been worried about leaving you behind." I pulled out my laptop and showed her bank statements through the glass. 4 years of me paying mortgage, utilities, groceries, and household expenses while she spent her entire salary on designer clothes, personal branding courses, and what she called investment pieces for her social media presence. Her face went pale as she recognized the numbers, probably calculating for the first time how much her lifestyle had actually cost someone else. Madison returned Thursday afternoon with reinforcements, her mother Patricia, older sister Ashley, and 3 friends including Chloe, attempting to claim furniture, electronics, and marine equipment from my beach cottage. I methodically produced purchase receipts for every disputed item, including the vintage surfboard Madison claimed was a joint purchase. "This board was a gift for our 2nd anniversary," she insisted, running her hands along its polished surface. I handed her the receipt showing I'd bought it 5 years before meeting her, along with the restoration invoices from when I'd refinished it myself. Her support group began shifting uncomfortably as each claim fell apart under documentation. Patricia tried a motherly approach. "Ryan, surely you can be reasonable about shared belongings after 4 years together." But Ashley accidentally undermined their entire strategy when Madison desperately hinted at having life-changing news while touching her stomach meaningfully. "Madison, didn't you just get your birth control renewed at Dr. Peterson's office last week?" Ashley asked innocently. The pregnancy manipulation died instantly, and I watched Madison's face cycle through embarrassment and rage. That's when I decided to reveal what I discovered 3 days earlier. "Speaking of Dr. Peterson," I said calmly, "I found it interesting that your Miami conference expense report shows shared accommodations with Chase Morrison from Resort Marketing, despite your claims about separate rooms." I'd spent Tuesday evening reviewing her business receipts after finding the hotel confirmation email she'd forgotten to delete. Madison's face went white. "That's completely innocent. Chase needed to split costs for budget reasons." But her mother was staring at her with growing suspicion, and Chloe was backing toward the door. "Madison," Patricia said slowly, "you told me you were staying with your college friend Sarah in Miami." The room fell silent except for the sound of waves outside my windows. Madison scrambled for explanations, but each word made things worse. "Sarah was sick, so I had to make other arrangements. Chase was just being helpful." Ashley crossed her arms. "You also told me Chase was gay." Within an hour of their departure, Madison had created an Instagram story series portraying herself as a victim of financial control. The carefully selected photos from our relationship appeared with captions about escaping limiting situations and recognizing manipulative patterns in toxic relationships. She posted pictures of us at nice restaurants, all paid for by me, with text overlays about surviving emotional abuse disguised as generosity. The comments section filled with supportive messages from followers who didn't know the full story. "You deserve so much better, Queen," and "Trust your instincts, toxic men always reveal themselves eventually." But Chloe's comment cut through the narrative. "Madison, we all watched you destroy a good man at that restaurant. This victim story is manipulation, and frankly, it's disgusting." The comment stayed up for exactly 14 minutes before Madison deleted it and blocked Chloe entirely. Friday morning brought a troubling call from my department head about anonymous complaints regarding inappropriate conduct with students. "Ryan, I have to ask about these allegations, though frankly they seem completely out of character," Dr. Williams said. The administration dismissed the complaints immediately after reviewing my spotless 4-year record and outstanding student evaluations, But the timing wasn't coincidental. Madison's Instagram stories had gained initial sympathy from her 2,800 followers, with dozens of comments supporting her brave decision to speak out against financial manipulation. Then everything changed. 4 different restaurant patrons simultaneously posted their recorded footage from the birthday dinner, tagged with Madison's handle and location. The videos showed Madison, visibly intoxicated on wine, viciously attacking my pathetic career and worthless existence, while I remained completely calm and respectful. The footage captured her voice rising as she called me absolutely worthless and complained about my dead-end teaching job, followed by my dignified exit after quietly agreeing with her assessment. Public sentiment reversed dramatically within hours. Chloe commented on the main video, "Madison, we all watched you destroy a good man who planned and paid for your birthday dinner. This victim narrative is pure manipulation." A diner named Bradley wrote, "Imagine calling someone worthless while he pays for your $340 birthday celebration and then trying to claim financial abuse when he stops funding your lifestyle." The resort industry connections Madison had cultivated began distancing themselves immediately. A prominent hospitality recruiter publicly criticized her toxic attitude towards service professionals who create genuine value in our communities. Another industry professional commented, "If this is how she treats someone she supposedly loves, imagine how she'd handle guest relations during stressful situations." The resort chain's regional manager, who followed Madison's professional account, viewed the footage and left a pointed comment, "Interesting perspective on hospitality values. Our brand emphasizes respect for all service professionals." Within 24 hours, Madison had deleted all her victim posts and made her account private, but screenshots were circulating faster than she could control them. The hashtag Charleston restaurant hashtag trending locally wasn't helping her damage control efforts. Her follower count dropped from 2,800 to 1,900 as people tagged friends with messages like, "This is why you don't date entitled princesses," and "Perfect example of how not to treat good men." The irony wasn't lost on me. Her attempt to control the narrative through social media had backfired spectacularly, destroyed by the same platform she'd used to build her personal brand. 3 weeks after the restaurant incident, I woke to the sound of someone attempting to enter my cottage at 2 a.m. using old garage codes. Madison was trying to access what she called shared assets, demanding entry until campus security arrived and threatened arrest after I provided ownership documentation and her signed move-out acknowledgement. "This is still half my home," she screamed as the security officer escorted her off my property. "I lived here for 2 years." The officer was unimpressed with her logic, especially after I showed him the property deed with only my name and the lease agreement she'd never signed. Madison's lawyer sent a demand letter the following Tuesday, seeking $18,000 for constructive eviction, $15,000 for emotional damages, half the assessed value of my beach cottage and diving equipment, and 2 years of domestic partnership compensation for unpaid household contributions. The letter claimed I'd systematically isolated her from financial independence and created hostile living conditions to force her departure. Miguel's sister, an attorney who accepted diving gear and marine lab equipment as payment, responded with a brief rejection letter and attached the viral restaurant videos as evidence of public defamation and emotional abuse. "Ryan," she laughed while drafting the response, "they're claiming domestic partnership in South Carolina without a cohabitation agreement. That's like claiming marriage because you shared a Netflix password." The resort chain's corporate compliance department contacted me Wednesday requesting my account of an incident involving a company representative that may reflect on our brand values. I provided unedited video footage along with financial documentation showing I'd subsidized Madison's lifestyle while she prioritized social media presence over work performance. "We appreciate your cooperation," the HR representative said. "We're conducting a thorough review of this matter and its implications for our company culture standards." Thursday brought Madison to the campus dock where I was preparing equipment for afternoon dive instruction. "You orchestrated my career destruction," she accused, her voice echoing across the water. "You turned everyone against me because your ego couldn't handle the truth about your limitations." I continued organizing diving gear while she paced behind me. "Madison, 5 witnesses and multiple video recordings constitute public behavior choices. You created your own professional consequences through decisions made in front of your own industry colleagues." She tried grabbing my equipment list, claiming I was ignoring her pain. "I loved you, Ryan. Everything I said came from frustration about our future, not malice." I turned to face her directly. "You called me absolutely worthless in front of people you wanted to impress. That wasn't frustration. That was contempt you'd been hiding for months. 6 weeks after the birthday disaster, my expanded diving business, Coastal Marine Education, had booked 12 private instruction contracts and secured a research partnership with the State Marine Conservation Program worth $95,000 annually. The conservation work involved monitoring coral restoration sites and training marine biology students in underwater research techniques, exactly the kind of meaningful work Madison had dismissed as playing with fish tanks. I renovated my beach cottage, replacing Madison's stark white aesthetic with my preferred nautical vintage style, and discovered I was sleeping better and had more energy without the constant stress of managing someone else's financial irresponsibility. Through mutual acquaintances, I learned Madison was placed on performance improvement status at the resort chain for conduct concerns affecting brand representation. Her leased BMW had been repossessed when she couldn't maintain payments without my financial support, and she'd moved back to her mother's condo while starting a lifestyle blog called Elevated Coastal Living with 276 followers. Then Chloe messaged me with information that explained everything. Ryan, I have to tell you something about that night. After you left the restaurant, Madison spent 2 hours justifying her behavior to us, but she accidentally revealed you'd been covering her spa treatments, designer purchases, and personal shopping while she told us she was building her own wealth and investing in her future. When I questioned why she'd attack you so viciously if you were supporting her dreams, she called me basic and jealous and said I wouldn't understand because my fiancé owns a small business instead of real money. She also insulted Bradley's family restaurant as small-town garbage and said his girlfriend was settling for mediocrity. Chloe's fiancé, a marine veterinarian, needed underwater surveys for his aquatic research facility and offered me a year-long consulting contract worth $45,000. Honestly, he said during our meeting, Chloe told me about that restaurant incident, and frankly, anyone who stays professional under that kind of public attack is exactly who I want working with my animals and research data. Additionally, 3 restaurant patrons who owned waterfront properties contacted me directly for marine surveys and diving instruction. We hired you specifically because of how you handled that situation, one explained. If you can stay calm and dignified while someone attacks your character publicly, we trust you with our property and family safety. The irony was beautiful. Madison's attempt to destroy my reputation had actually generated more business than I'd ever imagined possible. 2 months post-restaurant incident, I received an unexpected call from Chase, the Miami marketing director Madison had supposedly shared a hotel room with. Ryan, I need you to understand what really happened in Miami. Madison made advances claiming you were emotionally stunted and unambitious. But when I looked up your marine conservation work and saw your actual relationship photos, I realized she was fabricating everything to justify her behavior. I rejected her completely, which explains her hostility at that birthday dinner, displaced humiliation from being turned down. Chase continued, she's now threatening to report me for harassment unless I confirm her victim story, so I wanted you aware of her pattern. I've documented everything for my own protection. Madison began sending increasingly frantic messages from borrowed phones. Her mother was charging rent. She was working at a chain home goods store for $12 an hour. Her lifestyle blog had generated 0 revenue after 3 months, and she faced potential eviction from Patricia's condo. She promised public retractions, professional counseling, and complete accountability if I provided temporary financial assistance. Ryan, I know I destroyed everything good between us, but I'm drowning here. Just enough to get stable again, then I'll disappear from your life forever. I contemplated her request for 90 minutes, remembering some genuinely happy moments from our 4 years together, lazy Sunday mornings, her excitement when I taught her to snorkel, the way she used to brag about my conservation work to strangers. But those memories belonged to someone who'd turned out to be performing rather than authentic. I responded, Target on Rivers Avenue is hiring seasonal help. They value people with organizational skills and social media experience. Your background should actually help there. Her final message came within minutes. You've become heartless and cruel, Ryan. The man I loved would never abandon someone he cared about. I replied, No, Madison, I'm just no longer your worthless fish teacher. Best of luck with everything, then blocked all communication permanently. 10 weeks after the birthday dinner, Patricia called to apologize. Ryan, Madison finally admitted the complete truth about the finances, Chase, and her real feelings about your profession. I'm ashamed of how my daughter treated you and wanted you to know she's finally facing reality about her behavior. My business continued expanding. The conservation partnership led to 4 additional research contracts with coastal universities, and I hired 2 part-time assistants to handle the increased diving instruction demand. At a marine supply store, I encountered Madison loading discount cleaning supplies into a damaged 2019 Honda. She started approaching but stopped when she noticed my new truck with Coastal Marine Education, Exploring Ocean Depths decals, turning away without acknowledgement. That moment crystallized everything. I'd found my worth while she was still searching for hers.